I am going to give an overview of the lifetime guarantee sock companies I know. In this case, it is Darn Tough, which are the two on the left, and RedHead, which are the two on the right. There was another one, there was Cabela's, which used to have the Ultimax socks, but I wouldn't recommend them. I didn't like them. I didn't think they had enough wool content in them, since all of these are wool socks. But also, Cabela's was recently bought out by Bass Pro Shops, and Bass Pro Shops also owns RedHead. So, and as far as I know, these are now being sold in Cabela stores. I think first and foremost, though, I have to make the disclaimer of what a lifetime guarantee sock is, because this technically could change at any point. I don't believe either of them has a satisfaction guarantee. And what a 100% satisfaction guarantee is that I could say anything I don't like about the boot, even if it didn't make rational sense, and I could turn the boot back in, or the sock back in, excuse me. So a satisfaction guarantee is technically better than a lifetime guarantee, because what a lifetime guarantee is it's not always the lifetime of the owner. And sometimes to prove that you're the lifetime of the owner, you have to provide a receipt. In these cases, I've never had somebody ask that, but it is worth noting that you can use tricky wording with lifetime guarantee socks. You can make the argument that, well, we're only providing it for the lifetime of the sock. And so I've seen companies that use that wording, and they'll say, well, we only expect it to last a month or a year. And then say, oh, wait, you don't have a receipt either? Well, we can't do anything for you. Sorry, mister. So make sure that you know the difference. In this case, if there is a CEO change or a family change or any change in the company, they could technically change the meaning of what a lifetime guarantee means. Again, I've never had either of the companies ask me to provide a receipt or to provide proof of purchase yet. As far as I know, though, the Darn Tough socks are made in Vermont. So again, this guarantee stuff mostly applies to the U.S. I don't know if on any country or if any of these companies is willing to have a sort of a return office or anything like that in any other country outside the U.S. Darn Toughs, though, are made in Vermont. I'm mixing this up with Lima now. It might be New Hampshire. I believe it's Vermont, though. Darn Toughs are made in Vermont, and it's from my experiences, since I don't live in the East Coast, you just ship them back in whatever dismal state they are when there's a hole in them, and then they'll send you back a new pair. RedHead socks, since they're owned by Bass Pro as well as Cabela's now, I haven't tried it at Cabela's, but for Bass Pro, you just bring it to the store, bring in the dingy socks, and then they'll replace them with a new pair. So that's the experiences that I've had. I think you can also send these in as well as like you would do with the Darn Tough, where you just ship them in a USPS bag as cheap as you can get and pray for them to arrive on time. So the first point I'm going to go into, since this is going to be an all-encompassing review, is the ideal length of a sock. Of these socks, at least if you're looking, because Darn Tough sells like 1,000 different versions, whereas RedHead only sells 3: the heavyweight, the middleweight, and the lightweight. And I want to make a point there, because I wouldn't recommend a lightweight wool pair of socks. I think wool, it does very well when it's bunched together, but by itself, it tends to fray and fall apart. I've seen people with the lightweight Darn Tough socks. I didn't think that they lasted long enough. And even though I don't think durability is a big issue, since you can turn them in, I think it was just, it was just a royal pain in the butt to have a pair of socks that would only last a few months before it needed to be replaced. On that note, in the Civil War, they used wool, and if it's not 100% humidity on the East Coast, where the battlegrounds were, I think people imagine that wool is only a cold weather material, but it functions fine in the summer months. It doesn't stink like cotton does, or like, God forbid, synthetic materials. So if you're wearing it on one of those high aromatic areas of your body, such as your armpits, in this case your feet, it stinks, and wool is one of the better antimicrobial, or whatever scientific word you want to use for something that doesn't get disgusting as fast. So again, I don't know. I in my case, I recommend wool, but I would also go for the heavier weight models of wool. You know, for Darn Tough, that's the extra cushion. I'll even they one of the most popular ones I've seen sold on Amazon is the Darn Tough, not extra cushion, but the heavy cushion, and it's the boot length. What's the actual word? It's the hiker boot sock full cushion. That's a mouthful. And the fabric content of it is 66% merino wool, 32% nylon, 2% lycra spandex. But the thing is, I've worn that model of sock with the 66% wool in the summer, and I've had clammy feet from it. I have two reasons I think why this might be. One of them is the wool content. I think a good proper wool sock, especially if you're going to use it for winter, has to be about 80% wool or higher. I see people make the argument that something made of wool has to be 80% wool, 20% nylon, because it gives it extra durability qualities. And while I don't know if that's true, I think that's more true for recycled wool if you're mixing it with nylon. I don't know if that's true with virgin wool though, but regardless for this, it doesn't really matter. I do think that 80% wool is the minimum for cold weather, and you preferably want something higher. Anything below 60s especially starts to get a little bit clammy during colder weather. I'll go into more detail on the wool content, but suffice, in that popular model, it's not a very good cold weather sock. One, and then two, the spandex. And I kind of have argued both ways because I think both of these socks use 1% spandex and both of these use 2% spandex. And part of it, I don't know if it's the design or if it's the spandex that's the problem, because I think if it's a bad design, it could be a problem. Okay, anyways, I'll just go into it. And that's that there's too much compression up where the toe box is. I mean, you could always buy a bigger size sock if you want more insulation, because with wool specifically, you need airflow to provide heat or for your body to cool itself down. And specifically, if you have a closed-in pair of footwear, but also if you have a closed-in pair of socks, there's not going to be much room to actually provide much insulation value. In these cases, I feel like this toe box especially, it pushes too much of the air inwards, that you actually end up not having a lot of room to preserve heat. Again, it could be the footwear, it could be the socks, in which case it could be the lack of wool that's not able to trap the heat because wool is hollow on the inside. But it could also be the spandex that's just compressing the foot inside too much to not give any room to breathe inside that foot. On that note, all of these, on that note of the heavier wool that they use, all of these socks have they have like rings on the inside. I think you can get a good view there. So it's just a bunch of these little rings, and it gives a lot of room to trap air inside those rings. It provides a more loose fit, but you know, this one has it. These ones have it, even though it's a little bit more black. And then this one has it. So I've seen some of the lower material ones, specifically with Darn Tough. I don't even know if the RedHead Lightweight uses it or not. I don't really care. But I think this is sort of part of the magic in this design, is that having those ringlets, it allows for lots of air to be trapped. And that's where one of my major criticisms of Darn Tough goes to, is that even though they fit their name, Darn Tough, the socks are so dense, especially compared to these. I mean, and there's a reason why, and it's the price tag. But they're so dense that there's not a lot of room to trap warm air. And sort of, in my peasant terms, without just restating the same thing over and over again, these ones here, God damn, what the hell am I trying to say? They just they're much looser fit on these ones, and therefore they trap more air. I think it kind of gets to a point like with a sock, what do you want comfort in terms of like heat and insulation? Do you want durability, or do you want a good fit? And I don't know if you can get all of those things without paying the price for it. Even though durability doesn't really matter, because they have a lifetime guarantee, supposedly. I mean, that, like I said, considering that could always change. Um, these these are definitely darn tough. I mean, they're a more durable sock if you get the heavy weight of them. I mean, I've had my pair of these last about 2 or 3 years. Well, 2 to 4 years. And then these ones, I mean, I haven't had an extra heavy cushion pair of socks of theirs die yet. But the thing is, they're so dense, and the fit, going back to that other thing I was telling you about, it's like a modern sock. It's like a dress sock. Whereas you wear something like this, and it looks like you might have amputated your toes off. It's a very unusual design, but it's an open design. I'll get into a big criticism of RedHead here in a minute, but again, my point is these are incredibly dense. It makes them last a long time if you don't worry about the guarantee. But I don't think it's as warm of a sock comparison. So again, going back to length, which I think I was supposed to talk about 5 minutes ago. These are both of these are technically a boot length sock, and what that means is it's supposed to rest on top of a pair of traditional boots, which tends to be 8 inches. Now, the truth is, most people don't use boot length boots anymore. They don't use 8-inch boots anymore. Most people use 5 or 6 inch. So, without that holding it up, or something like a pair of garters, these socks, these boot length ones, tend to slide down. And that's really annoying, especially because once it slides down enough, it starts to push down at the sort of ankle here, in which case the footwear is sliding off your foot. So the only thing that's really going to hold it up at that point is an 8-inch pair of boots or like a pair of garters. And, in my opinion, nothing looks as ridiculous when you have to sort of slide your cuff down to look like something like leg warmers for it to stay fit. So I'm not the biggest fan of the boot length socks, but I will say the darn tough boot length socks, and these might have just shrunk, but they're about 2 or 3 inches lower than the RedHead ones, and so in my experience, this is good. I mean, it stays up for the most part, and that's because of the design and the length. These ones, which is the darn tough Micro Crew, let me fact check that. Yes, the Micro Crew Extra Cushion sock from Dark Tough is actually my favorite, especially for modern boots, because it's not that long, but it's long enough to stay above that 5-6 inch length. And it actually, lo and behold, it stays up on its own. It's amazing. So I really like this length. If you're a person that likes less than that, ankle socks, which are their own problems, or the sort of just typical, what are the other ones? Crew socks. That's the other length, I believe. That's sort of within the acceptable range. But when you've got these boot socks and they're like halfway up your calf, they tend to slide down on their own, and that's annoying. So again, I think when you make a purchasing decision on these lifetime guarantee socks, you have to go back over, do you want comfort in terms of heat and insulation? Do you want durability? Or do you want a good fit? This one, obviously, the darn tough extra cushion is definitely wins in terms of durability. The darn tough tends to win also in terms of fit if you want it to look like a modern dress boot. I think the heat and the comfort goes to the RedHead. And the other thing is the price, because the RedHead, I think currently are they cost $12, and when I bought them they were $10. The Darn Tough, especially the extra cushion, you're going to be paying somewhere between 20. Well, you might be able to get them on sale for about 15, but you're usually going to be paying somewhere between 20 to 30 for their extra cushion socks. Again, it's what's more important for you at that moment. You got price here, you've got comfort here in terms of heat and insulation, and then here you've got durability and fit. I think it's also worth making another point that something changed with RedHead in 2014, and it really ticked me off. I emailed the company a few times, and I got in contact with them, and the design for the heavyweight ones changed, and that's when I first started wearing the RedHead socks. And I was really impressed with them because not only were they warmer than the Darn Tough, but what the hell was it? They fit almost as well as the Darn Tough too. I actually have a few pictures here that I can show. So there we go. So I even took a picture and gave them a comparison of the picture. The one on the right, at least the on the left picture, is the former design that they had, the one before 2014. And then the one on the left is the design after, when they changed it. And I wrote them an email about that, and I said, you know, the designs changed. Did the manufacturing change? Because it used to be in St. Louis, where they were manufactured, as far as I know. But I don't know if it's still there. But I did, you know, I brought that point of contention. I said, you know what, your designs, it's not the same as it once was. It's not as durable, and it's not as warm either. If it used to feel like I was wearing sort of Polar Tech fleece, that sort of cheap heat, because even though it wasn't as dense as Darn Tough, it provided so much insulation that it was a very, very warm sock. Something that I felt comfortable wearing in, you know, 20 degree below, or 20 degrees and below weather. Whereas now I don't feel like any of these current socks you see on the table would pass that test. So my nicks to RedHead was that they when they responded to me, they told me that nothing has changed, blah blah blah. About a year later, the picture changed on their website. I've seen a couple reviews confirm what I said. I mean, it's obvious from the pictures that the design has changed as well. Suffice the company, again here, it's the one on the right, that is the original. Suffice to say, even though it's like a more open weave than it once was, it's still a good sock, but it's not what it once was, and the company denied that there was anything that changed. But you can see it for yourself in the pictures. In the past 5 years, it has changed, and it is not as warm as it once was, these. But since these are about $10, $11, $12, what you can do for the price of this or cheaper is you can double insulate them. You can wear one of these underneath and then one of these over. It might not look pretty, and you might have to get a size up in your footwear, which will also give you extra insulation, or you know, extra room for your foot to breathe, so you're not cramming your toes in it. But if you're gonna have like a winter pair of boots, I would recommend just going a route of double insulating. I mean, it applies to sort of the layer theory that a lot of people in you know, that are the outdoorsmen, or whatever outdoor word you want to use today. You know, that a lot of them will have like a mid layer, a close layer, and an outside layer. I just think for the price, something like a dual insulator, just wearing two, or even wearing two of these or two of these, is going to provide more warmth than any of these on their own. So that would be my point for that, because if you were originally looking for the warmest RedHead sock, it was this. It isn't so much anymore. So I even remember when I emailed and got in contact with the people at Bass Pro, not RedHead. They told me that they were, I mentioned to them, I said, why don't you just charge a premium model like these and charge a few dollars more just so that you use the original design? And again, they double. As far as I know, it was a double down. No, you know, nothing changed. The design hasn't changed. So, that was the political words that I received. My other criticism of the RedHead, and I've seen these in other socks. I mean, even like the premium Filson socks, that they here at the toe box is where the sock tube is stitched together, but there's an open weave in that stitching here. And again, going back to that Civil War thing with wool, wool regulates its temperature really well. I don't know why you need to provide sort of an open area in this stitching here. But regardless, it does. It lets a lot of air escape. Your toes are the area that probably need the most heat since it's the furthest away from your heart. But that area here where this gray is definitely an open part where lots of trapped air escapes. And I mean, if it was a fleece sock, you might need it, but it doesn't seem very durable to me, and I don't like it. It lets a lot of air escape as well. The heavyweight ones don't have it. I haven't seen a pair of Darn Tough that have it, but I don't particularly care for either of their lightweight socks. So I've gone over the material or the fabric content of the socks. I'm gonna list off the numbers here for these specific ones. These ones here are the Mountaineering Micro Crew Extra Cushion, and their fabric content currently is 70% wool, 28% nylon, 2% spandex. These ones I would mostly recommend for warmer weather, not cooler weather. I actually wear these here in Northern Territory, the Northwest, during sort of the summer months, summer, spring, and fall. But I think they, especially during winter, they can suffer sort of the clammy feet problem that you might have with the what's it called, the heavy cushion socks. These ones here are actually the military ones that they sell. Oh, and in terms of boot length, if you're gonna mess with the calf at all, you pretty much have to go over the calf. Just so you know, most socks don't even do that. And in fact, Darn Tough, the ones that they have that are over the calf, I don't know how well these army ones work. They're hunting ones. I think because they have a little bit more spandex, they can stay up the calf a little bit better. But they're ones that are like these, that are the Mountaineering series, I believe. I don't even think they're long enough to stay up over the calf, and they seem to have a harder time of that. But these are the military ones, and I don't know how long they've actually sold these. They're the tactical boot extra cushion, so you get the Tacticute points, but you'll actually see that they write the model number there. I don't think I'm putting that the right way. T4033, at least for this extra cushion boot length one. And if you're getting Darn Tough and you want it for most seasons, I probably recommend the military ones the most, because they're the 80% merino wool, the 19% nylon, and 1% lycra spandex. My one criticism of these is, again, it's that toe box area. I don't know if it's because it's the 1% spandex. I believe I mentioned that in this cut. Because these ones also have the 1% spandex, but there's so much compression that's going in the toe box that I think you just lose a little bit of heat that way, because there's not much room to trap the air with the sock. But still, if you're going for the Darn Tough, this one gets my highest recommendation, especially for colder climates. If you're doing warmer, this one's fine. It's loose, it breathes a little bit better, but it doesn't work for as well of cold weather because it doesn't have that wool, the 80% wool content. Alright, so this is the RedHead midweight wool crew sock for men. I kind of like this one. I really like the crew length of this way more than this. This one is a terror. A terror in terms of sliding down during the day. I mean, again, unless you're wearing garters or something. These ones are 73% merino wool, 22% nylon, 4% polyester, 1% spandex. These ones actually fit really well. I don't know, the design on these is really good, and I wish the company used that design to make these. I really did, because the old ones seemed a lot more like this design. It's a very good fitting sock. It's a very lightweight sock. I don't even know why they would call it midweight. But you know, it does a very good job like this one does. I wouldn't wear it particularly in colder weather, but I think if you're going to double up and wear 2 pairs of socks, I think it's a great inner sock as well. I mean, if you had 2 of these damn big, darn tough socks, you'd really would have, you know, clunky foot syndrome. And I don't know if you'd get a lot of, in terms of, if I use the word efficiency, in terms of meaning like, how do I wear as little weight as possible on my foot, which is going to be very important if you're walking around a lot, because there's that term that each pound on your foot is 5 pounds on your back. So if I'm going to talk about efficiency of providing lots of heat for my foot or lots of insulation, I don't think doubling up on 2 of these would be very efficient. I'd be more inclined to wear something like this and then like an inner sock of like something like here. Just because, I mean, they're very thick. And again, I don't know if you'd get that much more heat for applying mega thick sock upon mega thick sock without giving you a little bit of insulation. So I mean, this works really well as an external sock or a second layer sock. And based on the changes they made with this, I think these are they're a little bit warmer than the highest darn tough, but I still think this would, to me, as the warmest, it provides the best insulation. So, and on that note, this one is 81% wool, 17% stretch nylon, I don't know what that means, and 2% spandex. Again, you kind of get the same deal with the darn tough and then these ones, where both of these are 80% wool, both of these are 70% wool, both of these work better in, you know, moderate weather, and both of these work better in colder weather. But again, if I wanted the most warmth, I would definitely double up. I would apply the layer theory, but instead of applying it to, you know, the body, the chest, you apply it to the footwear and what goes on the inside. I think on that note, in the future, I do want to go over, I have to do more anecdotal case study testing on what's going to provide the most insulation. Is it going to be the boot? Is it going to be the insole? Or is it going to be the sock? You know, and also what's going to provide the most comfort, you know, especially if we're talking about efficiency in terms of weight and in terms of cost. You know, is it going to be more comfortable and warmer just to wear 2 pairs of these or something like an insole? Because my hypothesis would be that this is going to be the cheaper route. You get the lifetime guarantee if you buy 2 of these. And the thing with insoles is a lot of times you pay, you know, 20-30 bucks for a pair of insoles, and then, well, the insole dies. It's made of foam, so it falls apart. And people will give the rule that it only is supposed to last 500 or less miles anyways, or whatever jargon, and then guess what? Your insoles are dead, and you don't have anything for the footwear. So, again, to sort of conclude, I have to do more anecdotal case studying to test on how much these socks will influence in terms of heat retention as well as comfort. And I do want to make a video on that at some point. I can already tell you footwear and sole and socks do significantly affect the comfort of footwear. If you don't have insoles, the socks will make footwear more comfortable to wear, and without giving you necessarily a big heel inclination. And what I mean by that is by raising the heel up, so you're doing a lot of heel strikes, which causes, you know, rumble bumble across the bones, and it'll, for each heel strike you make, since you're supposed to land on the ball of your foot, it causes sort of a rattle up the bones. It goes up the legs, it hits the knees, it goes up the knees, it hits the upper legs, it hits the back. It can even go up to the neck as far as I'm concerned. And so if you don't want that sort of heel rise that you'll get from insoles or from footwear, you can also get it from socks. You can get the heat from it, and you can get the comfort from it. And I think it's a big case with boots as well, because with boots, a lot of times you need to separate yours. It's like a, you know, I mean, with the upper part of the boot, you have to sort of apply the layer theory. What I was saying, you know, the outside of the boot, its main job is to keep crap out, including, you know, wet weather out. But a lot of times people think that the boot has to do everything. It provides to provide heat. It has to provide, you know, stuff that the sock could do, as well as with the comfort as well. But the problem with that is that you have to apply that same theory to the outsole of the boot. And what that means is that especially when you're talking about polyurethane footwear. And I've gone over this in the sort of clumsy heavy boot video I made a few months back. You know, you're talking about a boot that is going to have a significant amount of lift off of the ground. Do I have it? Here, I just made this. So, you know, again, if we're going back to like the redback boots, you have to have this area here to isolate you from the contact of the ground. But the problem is, this gets cold as well, and once this gets cold, it acts like a rock. It's not very good at insulating, and it stays cold. So if you put one of these bad boys on the heater all day, and then you go out, which isn't necessarily good for the leather anyways, and you wear it, once it gets cold after about 2 or 3 hours, it's going to stay cold, and you're going to have that, like I said, you're going to have like that rock in terms of insulation. Anybody knows, like, if it's raining and you step on a rock, it's going to be extremely cold. So again, if you go back to a pair of boots, you know, you need that little bit of area to separate you from the ground. In this case, with the Limer boots, if it's leather, it doesn't act as much as it. And, you know, if you can give yourself proper space, like what I meant with the shell, to breathe, you can let the sock do the heat, you can let the sock do the comfort job, and the boot doesn't have to be as demanding in terms of that. So in that case, the boot is like a bed. It just has to provide the durability on the bottom. I don't know why a bed would have to provide durability on the bottom, but also the room to lift you off the ground. I think, you know, again, to give you the physical example, the insole, you're going to get a couple inches of lift, you know, not an inch. You're just going to get a lift here on the heel. And then as well, if you get a big fat clunky pair of boots to isolate you, you know, I mean, especially like the Mickey Mouse boots, which are like the ones that they might use in Antarctica, you're just gonna have a lot of lift here, which is gonna emphasize when you're stepping to do that heel strike where you land here, you know, and then move forward again, as opposed to landing on your heel and then moving back and then lifting up. So, if you're landing here, it's not good for your body by any stretch of the imagination. It's not, because the muscles in your body are up here. Boy, I'm like explaining another video. Anyways, I think that's just worth noting. That's my hypothesis. Socks are very important because they can provide comfort and they can provide heat that you otherwise would need by buying other junk made of foam that would fall apart. So, what else? Certain, you know, like I said, you can certainly, if we're talking about like efficiency again, like how are we going to save money? How are we going to also save weight and also be warm or insulated? You know, you can obviously purchase a pair of Mickey Mouse boots, which are like those military surplus boots that are made of rubber, and they have like 8 layers of insulation over inside that rubber. But the thing is, you have a slick pair of boots that don't have a lot of traction. They're extremely heavy and they're clunky, but they're also really cheap. If you get a military surplus. So, but you know, at the same time, you're donning the sort of Disneyland costume outside the theme park. A couple other notes I want to make on socks. If you want them to last as long as possible, I would recommend washing them inside out. The gross part's going to be inside anyways, so put them like this with the rings on the out and wash them that way. It's not the wool of old either. It's not none of these are the type that shrink, or at least they don't shrink that much. I will note that I think in the past, Darn Tough socks have been slightly small. They run slightly small. My foot size is about 8.5 to 9. And I get the medium with theirs, but I think in the past my size was also going into the large, so it's sort of a crapshoot with them. But even though they don't shrink, I think that sizing's worth it. It might have been corrected now, though. So another thing is, an old military manual has mentioned that alternating the foot that uses the sock, if you want it to last as long as possible too. As you can see, I don't, and you can sort of even see the outline of where the big toe is on each of my socks that I wear. But if you want it to last as long as possible, I would recommend alternating them so that you're not getting the same wear in the same areas. It's sort of like if you look at a dead pair of shoes. If the big toe is here and you're landing on the ball of your foot, you're going to get a lot of wear here, You're going to get somewhere here at the heel, and then you might get somewhere at where the toes are, but just switch it up. The other thing I would recommend is, especially since these ones are so much, wait for a sale, like one from one of the outdoor companies when they switch stock to the next season. As far as I know, most companies will switch to winter season during August and September, August to September, and I think most companies will switch to summer season during February to March, meaning most of the people, Christmas is over for the winter one, and most of the for the transition to summer, and most of the people are they're trying to get rid of the stock. The companies are releasing new products. They're trying to sell stuff for cheap at that point. So I think specifically like mid-February, 15th-ish, it seems to be the one that I've heard that Cabela's is having a big sale on. Patagucci is. Also Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So again, if you're going to buy a bunch of these, especially, wait for the sale. Wait for the sale. This even applies to Cabela's, I think, that even theirs will be on sale, because you can buy all that you're ever going to need for the rest of your life all at once and not have to worry about it again, and then also end up saving a hell of a lot of money. So anyways, on that note, hopefully that cleared things up for you. I don't know of any other companies. I think these are, if you want lifetime guarantee socks, if you want expensive, nice socks, these are the companies I would recommend. And I think now you should have a better idea of why you would want to buy one over the other. Again, these give the best insulation that I've found. They're also the cheapest. These are the most durable, and they have the most modern fit. But these ones also get pretty close on that in terms of insulation. So pick your poison and take the pill. Have a great day. I don't even know what that means.